Oh, yo, what is happening, ladies and gentlemen? It is your hostess with the mostest. It is PKR, Pastor Keenan Riley, and we are here on People Suck, Love Them Anyways. And as always, I'm joined. I was about to say I am enjoyed by my, I am
I don't know
joined
about
by
that,
my
but
sidekick, Nicky Nick, man. And I was kind of wondering if we would remember how to do this,
right.
if we would remember how to have conversation.
Yeah, I about started it off with that like a SpongeBob soundbite where it's like 1 month later.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
like just kind
man.
of see how it goes.
It was really weird because I didn't know it had been that long until you texted and said it had been like October 1st. I think is
Mhm.
what you said was the last time we dropped a new episode, and life's been busy, man. I mean, we've the first week of October was fall break, so we were on fall break. And then I think there was a Wednesday night where I got off work early, and I was like, I am not hanging around for 7 hours.
Mhm.
I'm going home. And then there was a Wednesday night where you had to work.
Yeah,
And what else happened, man?
I don't know. Utter chaos, I
Utter,
guess.
yeah,
I
man.
don't know. It's been pretty
It's been a
crazy.
crazy 3 or 4 weeks, man. So we're finally getting back to it. Finally sitting down at the table. Finally got our faces planted in front of the microphones again. And man, I feel like there's just so much to talk about. Like we could
Mhm.
literally take what's happened over the last 4 weeks in the world, and
A lot,
and
a
and
lot's
just
happened.
a
A
lot
lot
has
has
happened,
happened in the
man. I
last four
mean, like
weeks.
you think about it, like like we've had a quote unquote ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, which lasted about 24 minutes,
Mhm.
and now we're back to fighting and bombing again. We've had that whole situation go down. We've had an UPS plane in Louisville, Kentucky, which is right close to home. Crash and explode last night,
Mhm.
and I think death tolls up to maybe 10 or 11,
Mhm.
something like that now. Man, hit me with something else. We got a we got
New
this new.
York has a Muslim
I
mayor
was gonna
now,
say we got a
Islamic
new
mayor.
mayor up in New York that some people are giddy about. Some people are freaking out. Type situation. So we got that
Yeah,
going
he's a
on.
democratic socialist
Yeah,
apparently, which has a
apparently.
lot of people very scared.
Yeah, and with people being scared, I've read where people are going to start fleeing New York, and people
Mm-hmm.
are going to start kind of moving out and things like that.
Good,
And
it was too
so
crowded anyway.
all right,
Mm-hmm.
like
Now,
I
if I see
did.
some rats moving down here, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that
Man, I
though.
tell you, hey, these rats as big as people up
Exactly.
there,
Yeah.
bro. It's
They be walking
crazy.
on their hind feet
Well,
with
hey,
a sack walking
I
out of the subway.
reckon Master Splinter's still up there
He might
somewhere,
be. He might be.
So, and if that happens, you may see the Ninja Turtles come back, man.
Uh-huh.
You never know, man.
If we're
So
lucky,
that'd be cool.
it would be
That'd be
cool.
one
You know,
cool
fighting
thing.
off the Islamic mayor. No,
Yeah, right.
and his Foot Clan.
So you got that going on. You got people moving out, dude. Government shut down.
Oh
Government's
yeah,
been
that's
shut
horrible.
down for what 30 some odd days
Nearly a
now.
month. Yeah, about as long as we've been shut down.
Yeah, right.
Like so
Yeah,
that's a
exactly.
lot.
So there's that whole situation, and
SNAP
SNAP
benefits,
benefits run out.
National Shoplifting Day.
Uh,
Apparently, we got
so,
people threatening
but
to
but
do all kinds
the
of
crazy
crazy
part
stuff.
about that is that I haven't seen the turmoil that people have talked about like it was going to
Mm-hmm.
happen. Like everybody was like, oh,
Everybody's
November
all. I
1,
mean, we
we're
talk
going to
about this all the
Walmart, we're going
time.
to Target, we're going to loot, we're going to do all
Yeah.
this good stuff, and it's like, but it hasn't been as bad as what I feel like that people are
Mm-hmm.
talking about or
But
predicting.
that's the thing, though. They're talking about it.
Right.
Like I think we've covered that on this podcast a lot. Especially right before the break. We talked a lot about Christians who were on Facebook talking about a revival they wanted to start, talking about new things they wanted to do, and then never doing them. And
Yeah.
we have people talking about going out and rioting and looting, and there's just I don't know if you can call it a laziness problem in America. Like I mean, it's like we're going to talk about things all day long, but it takes a whole other level of discipline, motivation to actually do things,
It's
which is
like,
what we've harped on a lot
yeah,
lately.
great ideas and horrible follow
Mm-hmm.
through type situation. But it's like if it requires effort, that's not for me today.
Mm-hmm. It's just like we want to gas up a situation, but we don't want to actually put our feet out the door, like and
Right.
actually do
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. I feel that, man. And but I mean too, I got a chance to hang out at Feeding America for a minute the other day, and I mean, even them, they were talking about. They were like, look, it's like we understand that the world or even the country is kind of in chaos right now. SNAP benefits are crazy. But it's like, it's like these food banks are supplied for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is the reason why we do what we do for. And I mean, this lady took me through the warehouse. She showed me like this stuff and their plan of action and things like that. And it was like, man, I mean, it's like I think we're better prepared for stuff than what people give us credit
Mhm.
for. I feel like, you
Well,
know
I
what
mean,
I'm saying? And it's like we don't know. I feel like it's like we don't know the resources that we do have at the tips of our fingers to be
Mhm.
able to survive,
I mean,
right?
it's just a lot easier to freak out. You know, I mean,
Oh
it's a lot
yeah,
easier to hop on Facebook and freak out, or
right,
hop on
right.
TikTok and freak out and get angry and get frustrated, and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, we've talked a lot about just like our small and small minded community that we live in being so freaked out by things like
Mm-hmm.
sexual violence happening or drug issues happening in the community. We don't like to talk about it. We want to just cover it up. When the Derby comes around, all the homeless population suddenly disappear in Louisville.
Yeah.
And it's just like we would rather ignore a lot of these problems, pretend they don't exist, and pretend these resources aren't there, because these resources don't matter because we don't need those resources. Our
Right.
community, our children are all well fed,
Yeah.
in our county, everybody's taken care of. We don't need, this nonprofit or that nonprofit. We're fine. You stay out there, you handle the people that do have problems.
Yeah.
We're okay.
Yeah.
And that just allows for problems that already existed
To
to fester
escalate. Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
under the surface like an infected wound.
Yeah.
When someone leaves a towel inside of you after a surgery, right? Like it's just like there's a
Golly.
problem there. There's a
Yeah.
problem,
There's
and
a
if you don't
lawsuit
take care of
coming.
it, if you don't take care of that problem, it's going to get a lot worse.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like in Elizabethtown, which is the bigger town that's next to us, and it's like if you go over there and look, the more construction that begins to happen. So, like you take Louisville, we were talking about the Kentucky Derby. It's like you start to see a gravitation of homeless people more down towards this way because they're starting to do more in Louisville. So then it's like as we start to do more in E Town, as far as like build up the South End and start to bring new stores in and things like that. It's like then you start pushing them even further south type deal, and it's like, well,
Welcome to LaRue County.
yeah, I was gonna say, and it's like what's gonna happen is that like as they continue to gravitate, like they're just gonna start going to the closest most available towns or whatever the type whatever it is, and it's like you can't just keep moving the problem around and saying that there's not a problem. You know what I mean? It's like just because you run the problem off or just because you cover the problem up or just because whatever, it doesn't mean that there's still not a problem somewhere in the situation. It's like, how do you get rid of it? How do you help battle it? That's a great question. And that's something that I feel like that politicians for years have been promising, and like yet haven't found the answer to. Yeah, haven't found the answer to. And it was really funny, my buddy, another friend texted me today, and he was like, he said, how do you feel about, what's going on up in New York? And I said, well, I'll be honest with you. I said, I feel like that we continue to vote for people who promise us the world, and I was like, we really need to go back to like fourth grade elections. And look, it's like because that's what we have in the United States these days are fourth grade elections. And what I mean,
I'll give you free lunch. I'll give you more time at recess.
Recess, and that was it, bro. And like I remember, like I ran, like me and my best friend of fourth grade ran against a girl and her best friend. And I will never forget getting up in front of the classroom and just starting to promise people stuff that I had no control over whatsoever. Like for real,
you'll have no more homework.
Yeah, exactly like what you said. You were like, free, like more time at recess. And I said that I was like, if you vote for me for class president, I'm going to work on getting 10 more minutes of recess every day.
Amen.
Extra piece of pizza in the lunch line, no charge.
Absolutely.
And you start saying these things, and the kids in the class are like, yeah. And like
standing on the desk.
Yeah.
Or what that movie was.
And the girl, I can remember her. She was like, if you vote for me, she's like, we'll have new books, and it's like, and people are like, you could hear crickets and stuff, but it's like, if you start promising people stuff that you really don't have no control over, then a lot of people are gonna be silly enough to be like, that's my dude, or that's my lady, whatever, and like hit the vote button and go on. And I said, I just feel like that these days at the times that we're in, it's like it's about who can talk the best game and promise you the most stuff, right? And promise you the most stuff. And it's like if they can do that, then you're like, that's my dude, that's who I'm jamming with, like and then but the crazy part is that like once they get into office, they start blaming the failures on everyone else, on everything else. So like if you haven't been in tune with the U.S. shutdown over the last 30 some odd days, which the question's funny, But it's true. It's like, why are you still taking taxes out my check if you ain't
Hmm.
working? You know,
Yeah, where's
like
the
what?
money going?
Like where's the money
Like
going?
if
Yeah.
all the money is shut down, like nobody's getting money from anywhere. Like why?
Yeah.
Where's my money
Yeah,
going?
where's my money going, bro? You know, but you know, you got this finger pointing going on back and forth, and so you know, you got the Democrats saying it's the Republicans, it's got the Republicans saying it's the Democrats. You know, you got Trump saying it's the Democrats. You got, I mean, so it's you know, you
Hmm.
got all this finger pointing going on,
We're
and
just like, yo, we're hungry.
yeah,
Like we got
right.
people
It's
who
like,
need
yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Like, got people who like, you know, it's like I don't know, man. It's like I'm not in the meetings. I don't know, but you know, my thing about it is that like, you know, what's going to happen is that like, whenever Trump leaves office in 4 years, you know,
Hmm.
whatever he didn't get
I gotta
done or
clean his mess
whatever,
up now.
right? When whatever he didn't get
Hmm.
done, he's going to point at somebody and go, well, they're the reason why I didn't get it done for, you
Hmm.
know, and it's like, you know, whether you agree with it or not, I feel like that's every politician's scapegoat. It's like it's always the other people's fault. So I haven't listened to the guy in New York a lot, you know, but I did see one video where he said he was going to actually increase taxes. I think a video that I seen said that it takes about 50% of your income goes to taxes in New York. And I was like, dang, bro. I was like, that's insane right there, like right off the bat, you
Hmm.
know? And he was proposing increasing it to 52. And I'm not for sure like what all the money was going for, or whatever type situation. But you know, I mean, he had some lofty ideas and stuff that he talked about. And again, it's like it boils down to how much are you going to get done in the
Hmm.
process? Because you know you're still going to have to deal with people. You're still going to have to deal with people suing you. You know, I mean, there's that crap. Like you know,
I
it's
mean,
like
yeah, man, we've had all kinds of crap going on with our governor,
I,
you know, for COVID
oh,
and
yeah,
afterwards,
getting
and
sued over this and getting sued over
mhm.
that, and it's like, and it's I
Trump. I
mean,
mean, God, he's been impeached what 4 times over stuff that he did. You know.
yeah, I mean, you know, and I mean, been sued. Like, I mean, it's like you open up the paper or get on your phone or whatever, and it's like once a week, it's like, well, you know, this judge somewhere suing him for this, and you know, so on and so forth, and you know, and it's just like, what do we? I still can't help but think, and I know you've said this before, but I still can't help but think that like sometimes other countries are sitting back and turning on the news and being like, and just laughing,
Hmm.
just completely laughing and being like, look at these fools, you
Hmm.
know, like look at these fools, and I think we were talking about this one day. I know I was talking about this one day at work, but I said, you know, most of us have never been outside of the U.S.
Hmm.
Like you know, like if you've been fortunate enough to go on vacation, that's one thing, but to go outside of the U.S., that's another. And most of us have never had that luxury. Okay, and but with that, we've always been told and taught by every person in power that it's
Hmm.
like that the United States of America is the greatest nation. It is the most flourishing nation. It is the most successful nation.
The
And that is
freest
why
nation.
the freest nation. And that is why everybody wants to come to the United States of America. And it's like, well, hold up, wait a minute, time out. As I get older, I become more of a free thinker and I become more of like, let me figure this out for myself. And, you know, and I begin to look at it, I'm like, you know, it's not rich, successful people that want to come to America.
Hmm.
It's people who are, you know, oppressed. It's people who are homeless. It's people who are living in drug-ridden countries. It's people who have no better option than sleeping on a floor somewhere, and they're like, "Let me try to sneak in the United States and make a better way."
Hmm.
You know what I
I
mean?
mean,
So it's
Arnold
like,
Schwarzenegger. I mean, I think about him a lot. I mean, he's there are good immigrant examples.
I think there's success
Hmm.
stories
Yeah.
from immigrants, but I don't see rich people beating down the door to
Right.
say, "Let me come over here and set up a house in
Yeah.
America," and because
You don't
America
see
is
a
where I want to
Saudi
be
prince
at.
like,
Oh
hey,
yeah,
let me in.
absolutely. Now
You know.
he will buy into stuff that is
Hmm.
happening into America or going on in America, but he's not going to knock down the door and be like, "I want my visa," you know, like let me in. So
Give me a $15,000 apartment in New
right,
York.
right.
Like I want that.
So the question is that like is have we been, you know, I ain't gonna say lied to, but given a facade that we are the most successful, the most powerful, you know, nation that
Hmm.
there is out there. But really, if you look at it, it's like it's not people who are coming that are already successful. It's people to me are coming because they have no other options.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's what's crazy is because you see, and I guess America for so long, and again, we have a lot of international listeners. Just in the last couple of weeks, we had a lot of people from different countries listening,
True.
but I think it is interesting to kind of think, because of course we are insiders looking
Yeah.
at this, from the inside, and you know, we have a very limited worldview. Period. I just ruined the whole podcast over there.
That man, I hit a video on accident, bro.
But you know, we have a very limited worldview here in America. You know, especially being from small towns like we are. You know, we hardly ever go to a big city. You know, we drove through a couple lately, but I mean, other than that, you know, we rarely go through any big cities, and you know, and so we are relatively closed off from the greater grand scheme of the world and the problems of people. And you know, we don't see the poor destitute people in Haiti or you know Niger or you know anywhere like this. You know, we don't see that stuff on a regular basis, but we also don't see you know how people are living, thriving in you know France or Austria or Switzerland or you know Ireland or you know like I mean there's other countries over there you know in Europe you know specifically, but I mean there's countries in you know Asia, Africa, you know there's places in those countries who are doing very well as well.
Right.
But you know when we sit here, you know I've had 2 or 3 people just this week tell me that they wish they could move to another country because it would be better off than where we're at right now.
Right.
You know, and of course, the job I currently have, we sit right next to a military base in Fort Knox, and we get a lot of military people coming in, and you know they're hurting, they're struggling, you know, and some of them are anyway. You know, with you know when are we getting paid again? There's always this big question mark. You know, when am I getting paid? Where you know where's it coming from? And you know we're getting pulled in 13 different directions, and you know, politics in America is, I feel, and again, this is my very limited worldview, but I feel like politics in America are much more divided than any other country.
Yeah.
You know, granted, you know, not every country's got, you know, voting and all that kind of stuff in place, but, you know, I look from an insider perspective, looking out at the world, you know, I don't see race riots. I don't see government shutdowns. You know, like one of my employees at work is from England. And she said, this is not something that happens in England. Like, we never have a government shutdown where people aren't getting paid and people aren't getting food and people aren't getting this stuff. She's like, this is just not something that happens over there.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's like, I had no idea what was going on because her husband's military in the United States. She's like, I had no idea what he was talking about when he was telling me the government was shut down. She's like, what the heck does that mean? But I mean, again, it is, I can't help, I guess. And I think there's a lot of people in America who are starting to have their eyes opened as, you know, all the chaos has ensued in the last few months, last couple of years.
Right.
You know, as far as, you know, maybe life isn't greater here than it is elsewhere, you know, and I mean, again, you know, I know every country's going to have its problems. Every, you know, continent's going to have its different problems and things of that nature. But, you know, we sit here in America and sometimes it seems like we are constantly in a state of chaos. You know, it's like, we got people, and this is what's crazy to me. I mean, just thinking about this, we got people in Kentucky worried about a mayor in New York.
New York, yeah, right.
And I'm like, that's like hundreds of miles away.
Right.
And I mean, the people that are worried have never even been to New York.
Right.
And never even plan on going to New York.
Right, yeah.
And it's just like, why are we so up in arms about this political race, you know, that happened that doesn't even concern us? You know, and it's just like we allow this politics machine to just run our lives. You know, we lose family members, we lose friends because of it. You know, we have, you know, you have that hard line too, you know, especially as a Christian, where it's like, you know, as a Christian, I should want everybody taken care of.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I should want everybody to have their food and have medicine and have access to whatever they need to survive.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like as a Christian, that's the mentality we should have. But then you have sections of Christianity and you have groups of people around our area where they're like, you know, absolutely not. I don't want my tax dollars going to pay these people. You know, they need to get their own jobs. They need to get their own, you know, things figured out.
Right.
And, you know, and so you have this constant, ever dividing divide. Like, it's just constantly dividing more and more and more.
Right.
And again, you know, the people listening internationally, maybe they, you know, I know we don't hear much from people, but, you know, maybe they could give us some insight, you know, through the email or something, social media, where it's like, hey, this is what's going on here. You know, life's much more peaceful here.
Right.
Or life's much more chaotic here. You know, if you're in Ukraine or Russia, life may be a little bit more, you know,
just
crazy.
Just a tad.
Israel and Iran might be a little crazier. But, you know,
Gaza
again,
Strip.
It's crazy. A lot of stuff's crazy.
According to gfmag.com, which is globalfinancemag.com, I was just typing in, like, you know, richest countries in the world. And what would surprise you is that U.S. is not number one. You know, they're number 10. We are number 10. Number one, Singapore. Singapore, man. Let me read this to you really quick. With a net worth of over $40 billion, the richest person living in Singapore is an American. Imagine that. Eduardo Saverin, the co-founder of Facebook, who in 2011 left the U.S. with 53 million shares of the company and became a permanent resident of the island nation.
Is that the guy Andrew Garfield played?
Could be, could be. Like many other fellow millionaires and billionaires, Severin did not choose it just for its urban attractions or natural getaways. Singapore is an affluent fiscal haven where capital gains and dividends are tax free. But how did Singapore manage to attract so many high net worth individuals? When the city state became independent in 1965, one half of its population was illiterate. With virtually no natural resources, Singapore pulled itself up by its bootstraps through hard work and smart policy, becoming one of the most business friendly places in the world. Today, Singapore is a thriving trade, manufacturing, and financial hub. In an even more welcome development, 98% of the adult population is now literate. So that's pretty crazy to me,
Mm-hmm.
man. How like they've taken this place and like literally like made good decisions to the fact of that it's like, hey, man, it's like these people are starting to flock over that way, to have a better life per se, maybe. I don't know what goes all on Singapore, whatever the type is. But what I'm trying to say is that like if you start just doing your research, if
Mm-hmm.
you just start getting out and like just start looking around at other places and
I think of, I mean, not to cut you off, but like, I don't know if you've seen it yet. But there's like an episode of The Office where like Michael's at the dentist or something, and he sees a magazine that talks about how like China's the greatest country in the world. And
uh-huh.
he freaks out because he thought America was, but he was reading a magazine and found out all this research where it's talking about how China was overtaking America in all these different places. But it's kind of like what we're talking about,
Yeah.
like we as Americans have been told, America's the greatest.
This is
America's
it,
the
man.
top dog.
This is
We're
it,
the
man.
rulers. We're the leaders.
Yeah,
We're the
yeah,
kings.
yeah.
In the world, everybody wants to be us and be here
Right. Yeah.
with us. And but then the more you dig around, the more you research, you're like, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. And that's what it's easy. I feel like it's kind of like, man, and I know y'all probably like, people that are listening, it's like, I thought this was a Christian podcast, and it's like, we'll get there.
It's
Okay.
called People Suck. Let us talk about the people that suck.
Yeah. But it's like, I think it's easy for people to that's never been anywhere else, and I listen, I've seen it all the time. Like you scrolling Facebook, social media. It's like, well, if you don't like America, you could just leave,
I would.
I'll pack your bags and you
pack
could
my
go
bags, do
type
it.
situation. And it's like, that's easy for you to say because this is the only place that you've ever been. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like, it's kind of like if nobody's ever traveled, they don't know any better. So it's like,
It's like you don't have. I mean, I get like you want to take pride in where you're from and that kind of thing, but it's just kind of like I think you can be patriotic to a fault.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, I mean,
Well,
come
like
on now.
I think about like going to the beach. I love the beach. Everybody knows the beach is my
Mhm.
happy place. Like I love the beach
Until
so
somebody
much.
steals your
Until
canopy.
shit, yeah, man, that's a story right there because people suck. They stole my canopy. But like that's my happy place, man. But like if I had never been to the beach and somebody's trying to describe it to me and be like, man, I tell you what, you go, it's calm, it's peaceful. The water's great. Like the sand is good. Like man, it's like you just feel connected. Like it's just you got to go. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm good right here. Like I love this dirt and mud right here in Kentucky. Like you can't take me anywhere, can't tell me nothing else. And it's literally because you've never been, you've never
Mhm.
experienced it. So like people can't speak to what they don't know.
It's
And
like,
so
it's like telling somebody that food sucks that you've never tried.
right. Well, it's I was kind of like leaning in towards like the church thing. It's like if somebody's been in a church for 46 years and they've never wanted to go anywhere else or experience anything else and like or do anything else, and it's like you're looking at it like, well, why are you still here for? Why you can tell me whatever you want to tell me, like I'll be right here, and it's like, well, it's like
Why?
there's why, yeah, it's like why, man, it's like and I'm not saying that you need to be church hopping or going 7 different places or nothing like that, but what I am saying is that like if you're just like if you're slowly dying on the inside and whatever, like and you're like, well, why haven't you tried anywhere else? And it's like, well, this is it, man.
It's like a job. We
Yeah.
talk about that a lot.
Oh,
a job
man.
that's absolutely sucking the life out of you, and you're like, well, this is all I've ever known. I'm gonna be here till I retire.
Well, let's segue in, man, because that's what we're going to talk about tonight. That's for real what we're going to talk about, even in church, is that I feel like people are hesitant for the chance because they're scared of the change, and I really feel that, man.
God's
it's like
been kicking me through that for the last several months lately.
Well, I mean, but like, don't you feel like that sometimes that like people are like, like I wanted to put something on, like I know people's attention span on social media is like 6 seconds. So like
Mhm.
sometimes I want to get on there and type a book, and I'm like, ain't nobody gonna read this, like they're gonna be like, and they didn't even read it.
Mhm.
So but like I wanted to put on there this morning and talk about like I feel like a lot of people say this, if I had the chance to,
Mhm.
I would, and then they start saying stuff, and it's like, well, when the chance comes, there's going to have to be a change that's made because you can't you can't be who you were and experience change at the same time. That's what do you
Mhm.
call that? Oxymoronic or
Yeah,
whatever? Is that right?
that's pretty close.
Pretty close, man. I'm really working
Yeah.
on my words. I'm not, but I try. But like it's like if I could, I would do and say whatever. If I
Mhm.
could, I'd change my job. And then the opportunity comes, and it's like, all right, here's your chance. What are you going to do? And it's like, oh man, I don't know. I've been at this job for so long, and I know
Mhm.
everybody, and I'm here, and I've already got time put in, and I'm already this, and I'm already that, And it's like, all right, so you're scared of the change,
Mhm.
like you're hesitant to the chance now because you're scared of the change, and I think, man, and like I tell people this all the time, like I don't. It's not like I stand up on stage and promote divorce. It's like I don't think God is up in heaven going, like, hey, if you're not happy, just ditch it. Like I don't think He's doing that. But I also think on the other side of things, you got to look and you got to think to yourself and go, hey, look, like two wrongs don't make a right in this situation. I'm
Mhm.
miserable. You're miserable. We're miserable. Like we need to do something about this. Either we can get better together or we need to be better apart. One of the
Mhm.
two. But a lot of people are scared of the change. It's like there's so much uncertainty
Mhm.
after the change. There's so much uncertainty after you change a job, change a relationship, you change a school, you change a church, you change a community. Like there's so much uncertainty, and I truly think that because we're creatures of habit, that's a lot of reasons why we don't change anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Absolutely.
talk about it, but we don't change it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot easier to talk big talk than it is to walk big walk.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just it's so easy to say, I want to. I mean, it's just take we've talked a lot about elections, but you take about the elections. How many people who said they were going to leave the United States when certain people get elected, how many of them actually left?
Not many,
Not many,
probably.
not
Like
many.
like seven.
And it's just like we talked about the revivals after Charlie Kirk was shot.
Uh-huh.
How many people are, we're all like, I'm going to start a revival. I'm going to go out here. I'm going to be bold for Jesus. I'm going to be bold for my beliefs. And it's crickets, right?
Right, right.
Nothing's changed. Nothing's gotten any crazier, any better, any
What
whatever.
well, you seen those two, like two or three, like like whatever you wanted to call them, memoriams or
Mm-hmm.
memorials or whatever, and then like after that, like you seen like two posts. It's like Christians are or people are going to church at record numbers, and people are buying Bibles, and that was like
People are listening to
but that
Christian
was like
music
two,
more than ever
yeah, that was
before.
like 2 weeks after he died, and then
Mm-hmm.
like it's like, okay, it's November, and I've not heard anything about church. I've not heard anything about Bibles. I've not heard anything about music. I've not heard anything about revival. I've not heard any of that.
Hey, but Charlie's wife is hugging on Vance pretty tight, apparently.
Hey, hey.
Hey.
You know what? My
But
wife was like, "That's inappropriate behavior." I'm like, maybe he had an itch on the back of his head, bro. You know what I'm
just making
saying?
excuses.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe she needed to comb his hair. Like,
Yeah.
people just read too much. I'm just saying,
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it is crazy though, because we talk a lot about just the hesitance to change. We talk about Moses. Making excuses. I don't want to go lead these Israelites. I got to stutter. I'm not the kind of person that should lead these people. And God's like, do it anyway, and He's like, okay,
Yeah, shut your mouth.
shut your mouth and do it anyway. But again, if we look at all of these different people, throughout the Bible, that if they had stayed in their comfort, if they had stayed in their life, if they had stayed in everything they ever knew,
Mm-hmm.
then a lot of things in the Bible would not have been accomplished the way that they were.
Yeah.
So many different people. I've been reading, I think it was Ezekiel here recently. And just
Okay.
all the things that God had Ezekiel do and see, and I'm just like, good God. I was like,
Yeah.
tie yourself up and then lay on your side and eat, for 360 something days and like don't move and all
Right.
this kind of stuff. That's stuff that God, not necessarily word for word asks us to do, but I mean, God asks us to do stuff that is going to make us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's going to take us out of that comfort zone. It's going to challenge us. It's going to take us into places and situations that we would have never gone into before.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all about taking that chance, taking that leap of faith. Again, as God knows, like I've been running through for the last couple of months, with the job that I had. I had a good cushy job, paid pretty well, I had a really nice car, really good schedule, all this kind of stuff. But I wasn't doing what I felt called to do.
Mm-hmm.
That job was not where I felt called to be. I feel like I was called to work with young people, to work in the schools. And, I know basically made the decision that I'm not going to be able to do this if I stay here.
Yeah.
And so like the decision was made, okay, we're going to quit and trust God to provide me with that job. That's what it felt like it was time to do. And then I got stuck working in retail after months of being jobless.
Yeah.
I got stuck working in retail and was miserable. Everything that could go wrong went wrong.
If there's anything that will get your soul saved any faster, let us know, because what we found is that retail pushes people towards Christ,
much quicker than anything else.
Yes.
But it was literally, what could go wrong, what could possibly go wrong went wrong. And it's funny, like sometimes how God works. And I know one day I'm gonna look back at this and know the reason, purpose, and all this. But a job came up where I'd be working in the after school program and tutoring with kids in an elementary school in Radcliffe, which is close to where we're at, actually where the retail store I was working is at. But the principal there had just become the principal there. He was very close with my wife when he worked at North Hardin High School. And so I'd talked to him before, and all that kind of stuff. And so I reached out to him and said, hey, I'd be very interested in this position that I see you got open at your school. And so he said, we'll be in touch. And he called, came to an interview, and I found out that I got that job. And so, it's weird because I think, sometimes.
So are you going to get paid once a month too?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be all kinds of fun.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, all kinds of fun. And I was saying that very sarcastically. Yeah. But, anyway. But again, it's just, if you never take that chance, you're never going to get where you want to go. And sometimes that chance is going to take you down pathways and alleyways that you didn't think you were going to go down. It's going to put you through seasons and moments of discomfort and confusion and chaos. But there's always a reason and a purpose behind all of it. I was listening to a podcast earlier today where Tim Tebow was talking about his journey and how he got signed back on to the Jaguars. And he thought this was his big chance, his big opportunity to come back into the NFL. He quit his MLB career. And went back to the Jaguars and got cut after the first preseason game.
Yeah, they had him as a tight end.
And he so thought, bad. All right. So and he thought that
but the
moment,
Jaguars are trash. So
yeah, they are. They still are. Poor Trevor. But it's just like, he thought that was his moment. He thought God was giving him this as a moment to stand up, to take him to the next level, to take him to the next part of his life. And then he got cut, and he's like, this is horrible. He's like, I felt horrible. Everywhere all over the country was playing my worst possible reels, like of all the times I screwed up. And he said it was one of the worst times in my life. But during that time, I got the opportunity to fly overseas to go pray for people in war-torn countries and pray for people who'd been, victims of all kinds of horrific things. And he said, we went from one country where I got to do this and experience all this, and we got on the plane and go to the second country. And he said, I remember for the first time in my life being grateful in my heart for the Jaguars not working out.
Right.
He said, because if the Jaguars hadn't worked out, I wouldn't be on this plane right now praying for, ministering for, and taking care of these people. And they need it. This is my calling. This is what I've been called to do, is help these people. God had to remind me by taking me through a horrible time, saying, hey, this is not what was meant for you.
Right.
This is what's meant for you.
Yeah.
And it's all about, just seeing that bigger picture, which can be very difficult sometimes. But that's what faith is all about, is believing that God is still working, God is still moving, even when you can't see it, even when you can't feel it. Everybody knows Waymaker. Everybody knows that song. But it's just, I know he's humming it. But it's all about just knowing that even though you can't see, even though you can't feel it, God has proven himself time and time again to you. So let him work. As Joel Osteen says, let him cook. Let God cook.
I'm pretty sure that every 13-year-old out there says let him cook. I don't know if that's Joel Osteen.
But Joel said it specifically about God one day. I remember seeing the sermon.
Get that out of here, man. Get that craziness out of here. Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. The Lord had said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. To the land I will show you. So he calls Abram to leave his country, his people, and his father's household. And he says, go to a land I will show you. He doesn't say where. He doesn't say, he just says go. And he just says, trust me and go. Like that is insanity right there. That is the ultimate chance to make change right at that moment. And it's like you have to make a decision what you want to do, how you're going to do it. Like you just got to go, man. You just got to put the foot on the gas and go. And that's what, like, I mean, I am the most routine person ever. Like I got to thinking about that this morning. Like I'm like I'm four places all week long. I'm either work, church, gym, or home. Like you can find me in one of those four places, like 100% accuracy, not accuracy. Yeah, accuracy. You can find me in one of those four places, like no doubt. And it's like if something was to say like, hey, today is the day, man, take that chance, go do it, see what happens. It's like that's gonna have to be a change
Go
from
talk to people.
yeah.
no,
No,
thanks.
no, it's not happening.
No,
That was not from the Lord. That was from Satan himself.
Disguised as that black
yeah,
cat over there.
yeah, exactly.
My ear.
But yeah, it's like that's gonna take me stepping outside of this routine that I've built, and I get it, man. Like I'm a creature of habit, but it's like we are, man. We get so into a routine of life and everything else, and it's almost like we become lackadaisical, and then we become like we become almost like we're just in a coma, and then we wake up when we're like 72 and we're like, where did time go? You know what I'm saying? Like we wake up and we're like, man, I got grandchildren, what happened? Or I got grandchildren that are graduating high school, what happened?
I mean, just on a smaller scale. I mean, like, this job that I've been working, the schedule been so chaotic. Like, I mean, we missed the podcast for a month.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, my birthday was in October, and
Happy
like Halloween thing.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, hey, there we go. But it's
what
like
else
all this
happened?
stuff.
Happy what else? Happy what else?
Hanukkah's coming up soon.
Happy Hanukkah.
I don't know. But
Happy
anyway,
Thanksgiving.
Hey,
Close.
It's close. It's close. I'm excited for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited for it. But anyway, like all these things, like it feels like the month of October just disappeared. Like I swear, like I mean, I know, like everybody says,
man.
The older they get, that the more things just kind of go by. But I said, I've never in my life felt a month, especially not October. Like I love October.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, it's my birthday month. Like it's haunted house, scary movies, trick or treat, Halloween, all that stuff. I love Halloween. And like it flew by so fast. I didn't even get to go to a pumpkin patch this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I said, how in the world? Like I think it was the week of Halloween and my birthday. I was like, how in the world is October over?
Yeah.
I said, I feel like this. I don't even feel like this month has started yet.
Yeah.
And I was like, I ain't got the chance to do nothing I wanted to do in October.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just like the stuff, the time. You get in this routine, things just fly by. And it's so easy to just let it happen.
You just let it happen, and you're like, and instead of you living life lives you.
Mm-hmm.
And
I definitely feel like it.
Oh yeah. and it's like, but that's what, like, I heard a guy say one time, like, if you don't make plans for your life, you become someone else's plans for your life. And I was like, man, that is so, like, eye-opening, because if you don't have like a general direction as to what you want to go and where you want to, and all this good stuff, then it's just like you're going to fall into someone else's plan. You're going to fall into someone else's like strategy or whatever, and it's like, and then soon enough, life is going to be living you, and you're going to be like, what happened? Where did all this time go? And where did all this stuff go?
I've been at this job for 32 years.
Yeah. And you're thinking to yourself, like, what happened? And it's like, well, you just got so comfortable and so in a routine that you literally, like, that's what you settled for. And then that's what you're in every day. And you're getting the same results. And, I don't know, man. Like, sometimes I wake up and, like, I think to myself, like, I'm 40. I'm on the back half of life. And then I just start thinking about things like, like, is this the way that I want things to go for the next 30 years of my life? Because you can't go back and change the first 30.
No,
you you can't do it. Like, and so it's like, but you do have the willpower and you do have the ability to change the other half of what you're going to live.
Start making better decisions.
Start making better decisions. Start seeking God more. Start reading your Bible more. Start praying more. Start really seeing like what the Lord has in store for you. Like it's not just reading a verse a day. And I know I harp on this a lot, but it's not just reading a verse a day and being like, all right, I got my Bible in. Like it's not really. Like, it's not really about that, man. It's like, if you truly want to know what the Lord has for you, read the Bible. Like read it and then just kind of like understand it, man. It's like, if people are, man, it's 52% of marriages. I keep on bumping the number up. I think it's actually 51, but 51.
Eventually we're going to get to 99.
If we are, yeah, exactly.
Like,
52% of marriages end in divorce. Why? Why do they end in divorce for? You know, it's infidelity, it's money, it's you know, whatever the case.
People taking a chance on the wrong things.
Yeah, right. Like, you know, but I mean, there's again, you could throw everything that you want to throw out there. But if you go read the Bible, like go read what the Bible says about marriage. It says that a man will leave his mother and father. He will come together as one with his wife. And when they come together as one, that means that they come together, that they are together, and they have no outside interference or influence. It doesn't mean that you can't have people pray for you. It doesn't mean that you can't have people speak life over you. But at the end of the day, what happens? It's like we let so many people on the outside start to influence on the inside. And then it's like, oh man, it's like, you know, social media, things like that. Well, I heard this guy say, or I heard this lady say, or you know, or this one's going over here doing this, and
that couple has a really nice wedding, a really nice marriage, according to their reels.
According to this, that, and the other.
She gives him everything that he needs.
Right, exactly. And so, like, and then we create this, you know, this status or this bar of expectation that it's like, is that biblical? Like, is that what the Bible says about it? You know,
compare your marriage to others.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, it's like, no, it's like, you know, the Bible says that we should honor marriage like Jesus honors the church. He's in relationship with the church. He is the groom. The church is the bride. You know, and it's like, and as Jesus loves the church, we should, you know, a man should love his wife, and a wife should love her husband, and you know, and I mean, we could get into intimacy. We could get into like all the stuff. Like I tell people, if you want to read the Bible, it's juicy, man. Like it's juicy. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's some stuff in there. Like, you know,
that's why I was reading Ezekiel. I was like, God, this is crazy.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like, you know, there's a lot to get in there with. But you know, like I'm gonna save some time up here. But you know, it's just like if you want to change and if you want to rearrange and if you want to be different and see different and things like that, man, I think a lot of it is mindset. But I also think too that it's like we have to just get to a point where we want to sit down and just kind of look and say, you know, like you worked that retail job for however long, and I promise you, like you got enough taste of it that you're like,
felt like
I don't want to do that again. Like I don't want to be a part of that anymore, you know. So it's like, if you don't want to be a part of that anymore, sit down and think to yourself, I don't want to ever get back in that shape. How do I not get back in that shape? Like, how does it happen? You know, how does it happen? I told Julie the other day, we was talking about going to the gym. I said, you know what? I said, every day that I miss the gym, I feel like I'm getting fat again. You know? And I said, maybe that's, I don't know. Could be. It could be. But I said, you know, at the same point in time, I was like, you know, I know who I used to be, and I know how I used to feel, and I know, you know, how I used to just, you know, hate to walk across the room because it would get me out of breath. You know? So I'm like, I know how I used to feel. I don't want to go back there. So what do I need to do? You know what I'm saying? I need to do things better. And that's the reason why I try to do things better in that area. But it's like that in every area of life. Like if you don't want to go back there, if you don't want to be a part of that, don't settle for some stupid routine that's gonna keep you so comfortable. Here's the crazy part, Nick, is that some people believe that being comfortable is still living.
No, and it's not. Some people see being comfortable as the end goal.
Well, yeah.
It's like, you know, I want to kill myself until I can be comfortable. But the thing is, in the process of killing yourself, you get comfortable with killing yourself, and you're like, oh, I mean, I'm comfortable. But you're wearing yourself out every day.
Here's the crazy part. Let me ask you a question. Why do people associate fat people with being happy and skinny people with being sick?
Buddha.
Buddha? I was like, really?
I mean,
I was like, did he say something?
It's like always, you know,
let me Google that.
The Buddha, where it's like, hey, you've reached eternal happiness.
Right? But like, you look at people and you're like, oh man, like, you know, like, I'll look at them, they're so happy, you know, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they married now. They got
that. Yeah, exactly. It's like all the honeymoon phase is over with. Now they're just comfortable with each other type situation. But here's the crazy part. Don't know if you've been on social media lately, but you know, anytime you get on social media and somebody gets divorced, what do they call that? Oh, it's a post-divorce glow up, baby. Like you got men and women in the gym. You got them out there. I mean, like they out there losing 50. They out there like, you know, getting new outfits and everything else. And it's like, why weren't you motivated? Yeah. It's like why weren't you motivated beforehand? You know what I'm saying?
I got a divorce.
Yeah, for real. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, why weren't you motivated beforehand? why? Like, what was the motivation afterwards?
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
why
it's
did
just
you?
like marriage is the end goal, and we don't ever do any work after that point.
Oh, exactly.
You
Well,
know?
it's like I say I do, and it's like
Mhm.
now that I say I do, newsflash, I got you.
Mhm,
You
yeah.
know, I got you, bro. You ain't going nowhere. You know, and
Mhm.
it's like no, actually, divorce is
I
six
got your
hundred
three
dollars.
kids.
You know,
Yeah.
and you just got to go
Mhm.
from there. But it's like it's like after we get to a certain point, we stop.
Mhm.
No matter it's
We get
Christian
to a certain
walk, we get
place, a certain
saved.
job, a certain
Right. We get saved, and it's like that's it. I'm
That's
good.
it. Yep.
And it's like no, there's more. It's like marriage. We say I do. That's it. No, there's more. Job. Hey, I got
Mhm.
this job. It's like, well, newsflash, you got to show up. It's pretty
Mhm.
crazy. Got to do
Hey,
work
I had a
actually.
kid. No, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No, not how it works.
It goes so much deeper than that, man. So I mean, I just I think that we need to understand that instead of develop, I think routines are good to a certain. I think structure is good. I think routines can
Mhm.
get very what's the word I'm looking for?
Okay.
They can trap you.
Mhm.
What's the word I'm looking for? Like, oh man, I wish I had a better vocabulary.
Should have stayed in
They
college.
can just snag you,
Yeah.
bro. Okay,
Yeah.
they can just snag you up. All right, so that's what I feel about routines, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's just wrap it up because we are running a little close to time.
No, we're
But
not. We got 7
we got
minutes,
7
bro.
minutes to
Church
talk
don't
about all
start till we
kinds of
start.
stuff, right? Right. Yeah, they got to wait on us.
Yeah.
But it is ultimately, I think, just a matter of, and I know it probably sounds, if you listen to us on a regular basis, I mean, if anybody still listens after a month, but if anybody listens to us on a regular
there'll be
basis,
people listening to
yeah,
this.
there will be. You've heard us talk a lot about comfortability and how fast it kills your calling and your Christianity and your marriages and your just anything. Comfortability can kill anything. We've talked a lot about taking chances, taking those leaps of faith. Deciding to do something even though everybody else calls it crazy, but feeling like that's what God has called you to do, and so doing it anyway.
Right.
Making that chance. Like Abram, walking out into the wilderness away from everybody and everything he ever knew into the promises of God, and not seeing those promises fulfilled until he was nearly dead.
Yeah.
I mean, his kids took forever to come, and then eventually they would, develop into the Israelites and all of that kind of stuff, and it's all about having that big picture, and we're very short-sighted. We've talked a lot about that in this podcast. We are very short-sighted people. We want those short, sooner results. We don't want to wait for something long-term. We don't want to put in the work and the effort and the discipline and the motivation to get us from where we are to where we need to be.
Correct.
And so it's all about, taking some accountability.
Yeah.
Taking some accountability and saying, I have not been as good as I should be. I have not been as faithful as I should be. Has not been as disciplined or as motivated as I should be. There is something that I want. There's something I want to accomplish. There's someone I want to be. There's something I want to get better at. And so I'm going to put in the work and the effort and the discipline and I'm going to find ways to motivate myself, find people that will motivate me to get me from where I'm at to where I'm supposed to be. Because, God doesn't want you to settle. God, I think it was funny, Tim Tebow on that podcast, last thing I'll say is, hey, this really stuck out to me, but he's like, God doesn't want you to suck. He's like, a lot of people are living life like God just wants them to suck. God doesn't want you to suck. God doesn't want your life to suck.
Yeah.
But we've accepted that.
Oh yeah.
We've been okay with that.
Right.
And that's what we have to get away from. We have to remind ourselves, every day when you wake up, thank you God for this day. Help me not to make it suck.
Right.
Help me not to suck today.
Yeah.
What can I do to stop sucking? It's all about just being the best version of yourself, because that's what God wants for you. And you have to allow him to guide you and direct you to get you from where you're at to where he wants you to be.
Amen. So don't suck. Download every episode of this podcast, and it's
All
going to help you out,
170
right?
something.
Yeah, it's going to help you out. So we appreciate you guys for hanging with us. We appreciate you guys for hanging with us till we got back here to do another episode. So we thank you so much. Again, hit that download button. Tell everybody, other people, whoever. Tell somebody about People Suck, Love Them anyways. And until we see you again, we love you so much. Be blessed.